And hello, movie lovers, and welcome to the show. So, today I'm going to be doing my movie review for Knives Out, Glass Onion. And without further ado, let's go on ahead. Let's do this review. I can't wait to dive into this, and let's do it. And hello, movie lovers. And so, tonight I'm actually going to be reviewing a little film called Knives Out. This is the sequel to the 2019 film Knives Out, which also starred, of course, Chris Evans and, of course, Jamie Lee Curtis. Now, whenever I went into this film, I really have to say I didn't really care for the first Knives Out movie or anything like that. I thought it was a little too predictable when it came down to actually knowing who it was, but it took itself a little seriously compared to this one. Now, if you're wondering if you have to watch the first Knives Out to watch and understand this one, you don't. You can actually go into this movie on its own merit and watch it for what it is. Now, when you go into this film, this is actually what it's about. It's about this guy named Benedict Bellick. He returns to peel back the layers in a new Ryan Johnson whodunit. The fresh adventure finds the intrepid detective at a lavish private estate on a Greek island, but how and why he comes to be there is only the first of many puzzles. Felix soon meets a necessity disparate group of friends gathering at the invitation of a billionaire Miles Braun in their yearly reunion. Among those on the guest list are Miles' former business partners Andy Brand, current Connecticut Governor Clary DeBelle, cutting-edge scientist Lionel Tunis, fashion designer and former model Bridge J, and her conscious assistant Pig, and influencer Duke Cody and his sidekick girlfriend Whiskey. As in the best murder mystery, each character harbors their own secret lies in motivations. When someone turns up dead, everyone is a suspect. Now, this is a film too that I have to say that it doesn't really take itself seriously or anything like that. Well, let me just put it this way. The characters are goofy when it comes down to the whole entire lineup. When you have Dave Bautista, you have this. You actually have a good lineup of cast members, and I think I want to say this too. The problem isn't with the film or anything like that, or the overall story. The story I was actually enthused in. I was sucked into this whole entire deal of a who done it, and of course having Dave Bautista in this film, and then you also have the other cast members too. Edward Norton's in this movie, which made me even more excited about this. You have Daniel Craig returning for his role again. You have Kate Hudson, who plays Birdie. You actually have Catherine Hahn, who plays Clary, and then Leslie Odom Jr., who plays Lionel. And then, of course, this is the person that I think that steals the movie is Janelle Monáe. Janelle Monáe, who plays Andy, does a fantastic job in this film. She's actually the main character, the main focal point for this movie. And of course, if you're wondering too, like, is this basically a comedy? It is a comedy. And I think that is actually set this, if I can actually say this perfectly, is the fact that this is basically Clue, but if it was a Clue in 2022. And like I said, it doesn't take itself seriously or anything like that. It's actually something that builds on its own merit. And it knows what it is. It knows that it's actually going for that comedy schnick and stuff like that of a who done it. And of course, it starts off where basically all these characters are getting this puzzle piece sent by Edward Norton's character, Miles. And you're wondering, okay, so what's the plot? What's the motivation behind this? Why is he sending it out to his friends? And also, too, Daniel Craig winds up getting an invitation to this whole entire deal here on the island. And so you actually have that little mystery element as well. It's like, okay, so what's the deal with Daniel Craig? So you're wondering, okay, is he there for the game itself to where basically he has to try and piece this murder mystery together? Or is he there to actually solve an actual murder? And of course, with murder mystery games, there's always that one thing that winds up happening. The millionaire winds up dying. And then therefore, you have to try and solve that murder. And in this case, it doesn't happen like that. I'm glad it doesn't happen like that, where basically it becomes like a Clue mystery. Instead, it revolves around the fact that something winds up happening to Dave Bautista's character. Dave Bautista winds up dying, and then you're trying to solve this mystery as to why someone killed him. But while you're also solving that, you're also solving another thing that's happening within this movie itself. You're actually solving a mystery about this woman's sister who's actually in this, who's actually played by Janelle Monáe, and so you're wondering what's going on with that part of the story that gets later on inducted into that part. But let me just say this: I thought that the production itself, I thought the house of it looking like a glass onion was actually a perfect set piece. I mean, would I live in that kind of house? Absolutely not, because I don't want anybody to see me or anything like that when it comes down to living in glass houses. But as far as a millionaire, as far as this guy that's played by Edward or Miles Braun goes, I think that he plays a really snarky kind of character and rich person perfectly well. Then, of course, you have Dave Bautista who plays this other person who winds up being like a YouTuber and stuff like that, who wants to be like an influencer, which I thought that was hilarious. And then he also has a girlfriend named Whiskey, which also kind of reminds me of every single time I think of Whiskey, I'm actually thinking of that the Gentleman movie, not the Gentleman, but I'm also thinking of this other film that came out. I forgot the name of it, but I'm thinking of that film. And then, of course, you wind up having the other character being played by Kate Hudson, which is Birdie, and Birdie plays this one person who winds up being this person that tweets out different things, who says inappropriate things, who should not be saying anything, who needs their phone taken away. So I thought that was actually pretty funny that they actually have a character like that. And then you have Catherine Hahn, who plays Clary. Clary is actually someone that's out in the government who's running for governor and things like that. So, and then you also have Leslie Odom Jr., who plays Lionel. Lionel is basically a scientist who is trying to help Miles into different things around him. So I definitely like the lineup for these characters, and the characters to me are not relatable, but the story in itself is really fascinating. Is the fact that you have all these characters in this whodunit kind of scenario, and you're wondering what character it actually is. And matter of fact, I said that this is predictable. That does not mean that it's bad. It's basically just a paint by the numbers kind of movie, to the point where you're like, okay, I can figure this out in less than 5 minutes, but I can still enjoy the plot points and what they're doing with it. And the way that Ryan Johnson's wrote this into this story is pretty good. I don't want to give too much away because of the fact that this is actually a new movie that's actually on Netflix right now that just got. But when it comes down to the twist and turn, some people are like, "Well, it's misconjointed. It's not cohesive. It's missing a few things." I'm like, "Well, there is misdirection. There you have that. When you think that you have one thing figured out, there's something else going on within the story itself. You also, even if you figure out who the killer is, there's other elements to get to the point of who that killer actually is. That makes the story keep on going to where you're actually more fascinated about the whole entire setup and the motivation behind the killer, why he wanted to kill somebody, versus the fact that okay, we know who the killer is, but there's no point of even going further into this movie. So that's something that I really do appreciate that what Ryan Johnson did. He made you care enough to where you can focus in on the characters to where you're like, okay, well that character is dead, but what's the setup? What's the motivation? Why would the killer kill this person? And also too, why would he invite all his friends to this murder mystery game and things like that? And then Daniel Craig's over there trying to piece together things too, while also too trying to figure out why he's even there. So you have that mystery element going on. So you have a lot of pieces moving within this movie itself. The humor works to me, but also too might feel kind of awkward as well, especially whenever it's trying to take itself too seriously. At the same time, it's not trying to take itself seriously, if that makes any sense. But I think that this film is pretty good. I mean, it's entertaining. 2 hours and 20 minutes, I believe. You don't even feel the runtime for this. You actually feel like that you're actually peeling the layers of the onion as you're going in through this adventure with these characters. Then, another thing that I really have to laugh at is the fact that with Dave Bautista, with his character, he he lands the comedy role really well. He has a gun on him. He winds up shooting the gun up in the air, and he does all this other stuff, and it actually works within its own favor. I think that these actors knew the kind of movie that they were going to be in, and they actually followed through with it. Um, there's nothing negative I can say as far as the acting goes. The acting is really good, And if you have a little bit of a problem with the predictability and stuff like that, yeah, it is predictable. If you're, and also too, I wouldn't have to say that you don't care about these characters because you can care about them, but it's not relatable as to these characters or anything like that. I thought the puzzles itself at the very beginning was very cool to actually see the whole entire setup of how they have to solve a puzzle in order for them to get to that murder mystery that Miles sends out. And then, of course, you wind up seeing Daniel Craig in this other situation where he winds up spotting different things within the setup of the murder mystery to the point where he solved it already. He's like, well, there's no sense of even worrying about it. So, what do we get in return for solving the mystery and things like that? So, all in all, I have to say, Knives Out um, Knives Out Glass Onion was a really good movie. But if you're wondering if it's going to have the same predictability as the first Knives Out movie, if you were able to predict anything in that movie, it's the same kind of stuff. But to be honest with you, I think this is a lot better than the first one because of the fact that the story is more fascinating. And I also like how, like in the first Knives Out movie, where you actually have this chair with his knives in the back and stuff like that, that Jamie Lee Curtis sits at, and then now you actually have a house that looks like a glass onion. So I like how they actually go within the titles themselves and makes a theme out of it to make that much more fascinating. And then you know Edward Norton also has this other little thing where he actually has the Mona Lisa. You're wondering what's the deal with the Mona Lisa stuff. You're wondering what's happening within this little atmosphere that they actually have, a one room scenario kind of situation. But like I said, I think you're going to enjoy this film if you love what Ryan Johnson did with the first film. And if that first one didn't work for you, I think this one might land with you as well. The only thing I wish that they wouldn't do is try to take itself seriously because of the fact that it may take some people out of it because of the fact that the humor might feel awkward at certain times and things like that to where it might not land for somebody. But for me, it lands. I really laughed out loud at a couple of scenes and stuff. But tell me what your guys' thoughts about this is. Tell me in the comments below. Also, too, don't forget to smash the like button. Don't forget to comment below. And always, until next time, guys,